I met my wife Amanda at a tech conference 3 years ago. We fell in love quickly and got married a year later. Despite our happiness, her family never quite accepted me. Her father, Jeffrey especially, seemed to think she could do better than a software engineer. I always tried to win them over, but nothing worked. Little did I know they would stage an elaborate test of my loyalty that would change everything. Before I continue this unbelievable story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments. Also, if you have ever dealt with difficult in-laws, hit that subscribe button. You will not believe how this loyalty test completely backfired on my wife's family. The day I met Amanda was one of those perfect Seattle afternoons when the sun breaks through the clouds and bathes everything in golden light. I was 32, presenting my work on cybersecurity systems at the Northwest Tech Summit. She approached my booth with intelligent questions about encryption that immediately caught my attention. Amanda was not just beautiful with her warm brown eyes and confident smile, but brilliant too. As a software designer for a healthcare company, she understood my work in a way few others did. We exchanged numbers, and our first date stretched from coffee to dinner to midnight walks along the waterfront. Within 6 months, we were inseparable. I knew she was the one when she stayed up all night, helping me debug a critical project, bringing me coffee and offering solutions when I was ready to throw my laptop out the window. When I proposed after a year of dating, her response was an immediate yes. But her enthusiasm seemed to dim when she called her parents to share our news. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Eventually, her mother Diane offered a stiff congratulations, while her father Jeffrey asked to speak with me. "So, Clint, what exactly are your long-term plans?" Jeffrey asked in the measured tone of a man accustomed to cross-examining witnesses in court. Amanda comes from a family of professionals. I want to ensure she maintains the lifestyle she deserves. His words made it clear that a software engineer, even one with my credentials, was not what they had in mind for their daughter. Still, I was determined to make it work. Our wedding was small, mostly attended by my family and our mutual friends. Her parents and brother Kyle came but maintained a chilly distance throughout the celebration. Amanda always tried to brush off her family's attitude. "They will come around once they get to know you better," she would say. But 3 years into our marriage, that day still had not arrived. Jeffrey Thompson was a senior partner at one of the most prestigious law firms in the city. He carried himself with the confidence of a man who rarely lost arguments either in court or at home. His salt and pepper hair was always perfectly styled, his suits custom-tailored. He had graduated from Harvard Law and expected nothing less than excellence from everyone, especially those connected to his family. Diane was equally accomplished as a cardiologist at the university hospital. She possessed the same exacting standards as her husband, but wrapped them in a veneer of politeness that somehow made her disapproval even more cutting. Kyle, Amanda's older brother, by 4 years, had followed in his father's authoritarian footsteps, but chose law enforcement instead of law practice. As a police sergeant, he carried the same air of superiority as his father, with an added edge of physical intimidation. At 6'3" with broad shoulders, he seemed to fill any room he entered. My attempts to connect with them always ended in disaster. The first dinner at their sprawling lakeside home set the tone. Jeffrey spent the evening interrogating me about my career salary and investment strategy. When I mentioned we were saving for a house, he scoffed. "In this market, on your income, Amanda grew up in a 5-bedroom home in the best school district. I assume you plan to give her children the same advantages." Another memorable failure was when Kyle invited me to watch a football game at his place. What I thought might be a bonding experience turned into a drinking contest designed to humiliate me. Not being much of a drinker, I was nauseated after 3 shots of whiskey while Kyle remained stone sober. "Thought you could handle your liquor better than that," he laughed. "How are you going to keep up with the men in this family?" Even Diane's birthday celebration became an opportunity to highlight my inadequacy when I brought an elegant silk scarf that Amanda had helped me select. "Oh, how thoughtful," Diane said with a tight smile. "Though I do prefer cashmere. Allergies, you know." The subtle dig might have gone unnoticed if Jeffrey had not added Diane only wears Hermes or Burberry. Family tradition. Throughout it all, Amanda remained caught in the middle. She loved her family and me, constantly trying to bridge a gap that seemed to widen with every interaction. I began to notice a pattern of her stepping outside to take calls from her parents or brother, returning with a strained expression that she would quickly mask with a smile. The week before everything fell apart, Jeffrey invited us to dinner at his club. The conversation seemed unusually focused on home security. He asked pointed questions about our apartment building, the lock systems, whether we had cameras. "Just curious about how the younger generation approaches safety," he explained smoothly. "In my day, we knew our neighbors and looked out for each other." 3 days later, Amanda told me her mother was not feeling well, and she needed to spend Friday night at her parents' house to help out. "Will you be okay on your own for the night?" she asked, not quite meeting my eyes. Something in her tone made my stomach tighten, but I dismissed the feeling. "Of course. Tell your mom I hope she feels better," I replied, kissing her goodbye. That night alone in our apartment, I could not shake a sense of unease. I texted Amanda several times, receiving only brief, delayed responses. Around 10, I poured myself 2 fingers of bourbon and settled in to watch a movie, hoping to distract myself from the strange anxiety crawling under my skin. The clock on our living room wall read 11:15 when I heard it, a faint scraping sound from the direction of our balcony. At first, I thought it might be the neighbor's cat that sometimes wandered along the shared ledge between apartments. Then came a more distinct noise, the unmistakable sound of metal on metal, as if someone was working at the lock of our sliding glass door. My heart began hammering against my ribs. We lived on the 4th floor of a secure building. Nobody should be on that balcony. I muted the television and moved silently toward the sound, grabbing my baseball bat from the hall closet. Years of playing college baseball had made the 32-ounce Louisville Slugger feel like an extension of my arm. The scraping continued, more urgent now. Through the thin curtains, I could make out a dark silhouette, tall, broad-shouldered, definitely male. This was no cat. This was an intruder trying to break into my home. Adrenaline surged through my veins as I reached for my phone and dialed 911 with trembling fingers. 911. "What is your emergency?" The operator's voice was calm, professional. "Someone is trying to break into my apartment," I whispered, giving my address. 4th floor. "The intruder is on my balcony right now, attempting to force the sliding door. Sir, officers are being dispatched." "Are you in a safe location away from the intruder?" "Yes, but I am armed with a baseball bat for protection. I am alone in the apartment. Please stay on the line and remain in a secure location until officers arrive. Do not confront the intruder." But as I watched the shadow figure grow more determined in his efforts, something shifted inside me. This was my home. The home I shared with Amanda. The thought of this stranger violating our space, potentially waiting for Amanda to return, filled me with a protective rage I had never experienced. "He is about to get through the lock," I told the operator. "I cannot just hide." The sliding door gave way with a soft click. As the intruder began to push it open, I stepped into view, bat raised. "Stop, right there," I commanded, my voice steadier than I felt. "The police are on their way. Leave now." The intruder froze momentarily, then continued forward. He wore dark clothes and a black ski mask that revealed only his eyes. In his right hand was what appeared to be a knife, the blade catching the dim light from the street below. I said, "Stop," I shouted louder. "I am armed, and I will defend myself." Instead of retreating, the man lunged toward me. Instinct and years of baseball training took over. I swung the bat with precision, connecting solidly with his shoulder. He grunted in pain, but kept coming. We collided, his momentum driving me backward into the living room. The knife slashed toward my face, missing by inches as I jerked away. We grappled intensely, knocking over the coffee table and sending the bourbon glass shattering across the floor. Despite the mask, there was something eerily familiar about the man's movements, his build. When he spoke, cursing, as I landed another blow with my elbow to his ribs, a chill ran through me. I had heard that voice before. With renewed strength born from suspicion and anger, I drove my knee upward, connecting with his stomach. As he doubled over, I grabbed the ski mask and yanked it off. Kyle, my wife's brother. His face was contorted with pain and something else, something that looked almost like embarrassment. "What the hell are you doing?" I demanded, still keeping my distance, the bat firmly gripped. Kyle straightened up slowly, rubbing his shoulder where the bat had connected. "Put that down, Clint. This is not what it looks like." "Really?" "Because it looks like my brother-in-law just broke into my apartment with a knife." "It is just a prop," Kyle said, tossing the rubber knife onto the overturned coffee table. "This was supposed to be a test." My mind struggled to process his words. "A test? What are you talking about?" Kyle's expression hardened. "Dad wanted to see what you would do in a crisis. Whether you would protect Amanda and your home, or run like a coward. Guess you passed, though you were not supposed to actually attack me." The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. "Your father put you up to this, to breaking into my home and threatening me with a weapon. It was not just Dad. We all agreed you needed to prove yourself. You have always been soft working behind a computer all day. Dad needed to know his daughter would be protected. So this whole thing, Amanda staying at your parents' place, that was part of this insane plan." Kyle looked away and I had my answer. "Where are Jeffrey and Diane? Are they watching this sick show too?" Kyle gestured vaguely toward the street, waiting in the car. "They were supposed to come up once I let them know how you reacted." A cold realization washed over me. "And Amanda, did she know about this?" His hesitation told me everything I needed to know before he reluctantly admitted, "She knew Dad was planning something to test you. I do not think she knew exactly what. My wife knew. She had left me here deliberately as part of her family's twisted evaluation of my worth. The foundation of trust I thought our marriage was built upon crumbled beneath my feet." Before I could process this betrayal further, there was a loud knock at the front door, followed by an authoritative voice. "Police, open up." 2 officers entered my apartment with weapons drawn, only lowering them when they assessed the chaotic scene. Furniture overturned, glass shattered on the floor, and 2 men standing in apparent standoff. "I am Officer Rodriguez. This is Officer Patel," the taller policeman introduced them. "We received a report of a break-in at this address." "What is going on here?" Before I could explain, Kyle stepped forward, badge already in hand. "Sergeant Kyle Thompson, West Side Precinct. This is a misunderstanding. I was just visiting my brother-in-law." Officer Patel frowned. "At 11:30 at night through the balcony door, it was a practical joke that got out of hand," Kyle said smoothly. "Right, Clint." The casual way he expected me to lie for him after what he had just done ignited something inside me. Years of swallowing my pride in the face of this family's disrespect culminated in this moment. "No, that is not right," I stated firmly. "This man broke into my apartment through the balcony door. I have the entire incident recorded on my 911 call. He was wearing a mask and carrying what appeared to be a weapon. I had no idea it was my brother-in-law until I physically subdued him and removed his mask." Kyle's eyes widened with disbelief. "Clint, come on. It was just a family thing." Officer Rodriguez was already speaking into his radio, while Officer Patel moved toward Kyle. "Sir, I am going to need you to turn around and place your hands behind your back." "This is ridiculous," Kyle protested. "I am a police officer, which means you should know better than to break into someone's home," Officer Patel replied evenly. "Being a police officer does not put you above the law." As they placed handcuffs on Kyle, the apartment door burst open again. Jeffrey and Diane Thompson rushed in, faces pale with shock. "What is happening here?" Jeffrey demanded, his authoritative courtroom voice filling the space. "Why are you arresting my son?" Officer Rodriguez stepped forward. "Sir, ma'am, I need you to stay back. Your son is being detained for breaking and entering." Jeffrey's face reddened with indignation. "This is absurd. Kyle is a police sergeant. This was a family matter." "A family matter," I repeated incredulously. "You staged a break-in to test me. What kind of twisted family does something like that?" Diane turned to me, tears welling in her eyes. "We just wanted to know our daughter would be safe with you." "Is that so wrong?" "Yes, it is wrong. It is illegal, dangerous, and a complete violation of trust." I shot back, my voice rising. "Your son could have been seriously injured, or I could have been if things had gone differently." Did any of you consider that Jeffrey's eyes narrowed? You are overreacting as usual. This is why we were concerned about Amanda marrying you. You are too emotional, not level-headed enough to handle real pressure. I laughed bitterly at the absurdity. Not level-headed, I just defended my home against what I thought was a violent intruder. I called the police, protected myself without excessive force, and kept my cool during the entire incident. What exactly did I fail at in your test? You were supposed to recognize it was, Diane said weakly, how he was wearing a mask and broke in through my balcony in the dark. What rational person would assume a masked intruder was actually family? As the officers prepared to take Kyle to the station, the apartment door opened once more. Amanda stood frozen in the doorway, her face a mask of horror as she took in the scene. Her brother in handcuffs, her parents in distress, our home in disarray. "What happened?" she whispered. I stared at my wife, the woman I had trusted completely, and felt something break inside me. Why do not you ask your family about their loyalty test, the one you knew about and helped set up by conveniently spending the night away? Amanda's eyes filled with tears. Clint, I did not know they would do this. Dad just said he wanted to see how you would react in an emergency. And you thought that was okay. To test me like some lab rat. Without my knowledge or consent, I told them not to go through with it. That is why I came back to stop them. But I was too late. Her voice trailed off as she realized how hollow her defense sounded. As the officers led Kyle away, despite Jeffrey's threats of lawsuits and calls to superiors, I grabbed my jacket and keys. "Where are you going?" Amanda asked, reaching for my arm. I pulled away from her touch. "Anywhere but here. I need to think about whether I can stay married to someone who would participate in something like this." The devastation on her face might have moved me on any other night. But as I walked past her and her stunned parents, all I felt was a cold certainty that something fundamental had changed in our relationship. The foundation of trust had not just been damaged, it had been deliberately undermined by the very people who should have supported us. I drove through the rain-slicked streets, barely noticing where I was going, until I found myself outside my friend Jack's apartment building. Jack had been my roommate in college, and the best man at our wedding. If anyone could help me make sense of this nightmare, it would be him. After explaining the situation, Jack offered me his couch and a glass of whiskey. "Man, that is messed up on so many levels," he said, shaking his head. "What are you going to do?" I stared into my glass, seeing Amanda's tearful face reflected in the amber liquid. "I do not know. Part of me wants to just walk away. Another part still loves her and wonders if this is her family's toxicity, not hers." "They have always treated you like garbage," Jack reminded me. "And Amanda has always let them." His words hit home. Throughout our relationship, Amanda had never truly stood up to her family on my behalf. She had always sought middle ground, tried to smooth things over, asked me to be patient. Tonight was just the most extreme example of a pattern that had existed from the beginning. "Get some sleep," Jack advised. "Tomorrow, you need to decide what your boundaries are. Not just with her family, but with Amanda too. This cannot happen again." As I lay on Jack's couch, sleep evaded me. The image of Kyle in that mask, the knife in his hand, Jeffrey's dismissive anger, Diane's tears, and worst of all, Amanda's complicity kept replaying in my mind. By sunrise, I knew what I needed to do. The morning after the break-in, I called Frank Winters, a lawyer I had helped with cybersecurity for his firm the previous year. After explaining the situation, he agreed to represent me if Jeffrey followed through on his threats of legal action. "From what you have described, you acted in justified self-defense against what any reasonable person would perceive as a genuine threat," Frank assured me. "Your brother-in-law committed several crimes last night, regardless of his intent. The fact that he is a police officer actually makes his actions more serious, not less." Armed with legal reassurance, I methodically gathered evidence. I downloaded the security camera footage from our building's hallway and parking garage, showing Kyle entering with his parents. I obtained a copy of the 911 call. I took photographs of the damaged balcony door and the overturned furniture. I saved the text messages from Amanda that night, showing she knew I would be alone. 3 days after moving in with Jack, I texted Amanda asking to meet at a coffee shop near my office. Neutral territory seemed important. When she arrived, her eyes were red-rimmed and shadowed from lack of sleep. Despite everything, my heart ached at the sight of her pain. But I reminded myself why we were here. "How is Kyle?" I asked once we had our coffees. "He has been suspended pending an investigation," she replied quietly. "Dad managed to get the breaking and entering charge reduced, but there are still consequences for his career." "And your father? Still planning to sue me for defending myself?" Amanda looked down. "He was angry that night. He is not actually going to sue you." "Only because Frank explained to him how much worse this could get for Kyle if he pushed it," I replied. This was not entirely true, but I needed her to understand I was not powerless against her father's influence. "Clint, I am so sorry," she whispered. "I never thought they would actually go through with something like this." "But you knew they were planning something. You deliberately left me alone that night as part of their test." She nodded miserably. "Dad said he just wanted to see if you would call him for help with a minor emergency. I thought maybe the building's security alarm would go off or something. I never imagined Kyle would actually break in." "That is the problem, Amanda. You always give them the benefit of the doubt, even when their behavior toward me has been consistently disrespectful. You always choose to believe the best version of their intentions, while I deal with the reality of their actions." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "What do you want me to do? They are my family." "I am your family too," I reminded her gently. "We took vows to put each other first. But that has never happened, has it? Not once in 3 years have you chosen me over them when it really mattered." The truth of my words hung between us. For perhaps the first time I saw real understanding in her eyes. "If there is any chance for us to move forward," I continued, "things need to change. I will not be in the same room with your parents or brother until they offer genuine apologies, not just for this incident, but for 3 years of disrespect. And I need to know that you are capable of setting boundaries with them, even when it is difficult." "And if I cannot do that," she asked, voice barely audible, "then we need to reconsider whether this marriage can work," I answered honestly. "I love you, Amanda, but I deserve basic respect, both from your family and from you." We parted without resolution that day, but something had shifted. For the first time in our relationship, I had clearly articulated my boundaries and stood firm. The ball was in her court now. Over the next few weeks, the consequences of that night rippled through the Thompson family. Kyle's suspension became more serious when the police department reviewed the evidence. His supervising captain, already concerned about Kyle's aggressive tendencies, used this incident as grounds for a psychological evaluation. Jeffrey, despite his legal connections, could not make the situation disappear. Several of his colleagues at the firm expressed concern about his judgment in the matter. His reputation for meticulous legal reasoning was undermined by his participation in such a reckless plan. Diane was the first to reach out to me, calling one evening about a month after the incident. "Clint, what we did was inexcusable," she said, without preamble. "I have been doing a lot of thinking about how we have treated you from the beginning. We were so focused on Amanda marrying someone from our social circle that we never gave you a fair chance." Her unexpected humility caught me off guard. "Thank you for saying that, Diane. Would you be willing to meet with us? Just to talk?" I hesitated. "I am not ready for that yet, but I appreciate the olive branch." 2 more weeks passed before Jeffrey finally called. His apology was less effusive than his wife's, but seemed genuine in its own way. "I was wrong," he stated plainly. "My concerns about my daughter's happiness led me to behave in ways that were neither logical nor legal. I apologize, Clint." Coming from a man who rarely admitted error, these words carried significant weight. The most surprising transformation came from Kyle. After completing a mandatory counseling program to keep his job, he asked to meet me one-on-one. "I have been a real jerk to you," he admitted, as we sat across from each other at a local bar. "Not just that night, but pretty much since you started dating my sister." The therapist helped me see I was acting out of some misguided sense of protection that was really just control. It took courage to say that I acknowledged. I appreciate it. Amanda and I began marriage counseling, working through the trust that had been broken and establishing healthier patterns of interaction with her family. It was not easy. There were setbacks and heated arguments. But slowly, we rebuilt our foundation on stronger ground. 6 months after that night, we hosted Thanksgiving dinner in our new house, a modest but comfortable 3-bedroom we had purchased together. The down payment came from our own savings, a point of pride for both of us. As I looked around the table at Jeffrey carving the turkey, Diane chatting amiably with my parents, and Kyle helping Amanda bring dishes from the kitchen, I marveled at how much had changed. The respect I now received from the Thompsons was not born from fear or obligation, but from genuine appreciation for who I was and what I brought to their daughter's life. That night, after everyone had gone, and Amanda had fallen asleep beside me, I reflected on our journey. Sometimes it takes a storm to reveal the weak points in your foundation. The break-in test had been a terrible idea, executed in the worst possible way. But paradoxically, it had forced issues into the light that might have otherwise festered in darkness for years. I had learned that standing up for myself did not mean losing the people I cared about. Sometimes it was the only way to build relationships worth having. Amanda had learned that loyalty to her husband and loyalty to her parents were not mutually exclusive as long as everyone operated from a place of respect. And the Thompsons had learned that their daughter had chosen better than they had initially understood. Have you ever had to establish firm boundaries with loved ones to protect your most important relationships? Let me know in the comments below. Your experiences might help someone else facing similar challenges. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences. And if you know someone dealing with difficult in-laws, consider sharing this video with them so they know they are not alone. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember, sometimes the most painful tests lead to the most valuable growth.